You've probably heard this 100 times and you will hear it 100 times more. 2022 has been a great year for movies. For the next few minutes, I will be sharing what my top 10 of 2022 are. And if you're curious, this video will be free of spoilers, but some scenes with minor importance or taken out of context will be shown. 2021 set a pretty high bar for this year to catch up to, with the likes of Dune, The Power of the Dog, Spencer, The French Dispatch, Spielberg's West Side Story, and Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, which was my number 1 last year. In total, I was able to watch 77 of them. I don't really want to talk about the entire 77 movies that I watched, but if you're really curious about the ones that didn't make it past the top 20, then here you go. But before we move on to my top 10, I want to share my honorable mentions or my top 20. Number 20, Prey.
Next time you're cooking.
Number 19, Fire Island.
5, 5, 4.5.
Number 18, The Menu.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Number 17,
The
Tar.
intent of her composition is vague, to say the least. So, if her intent is vague, how do you, as a conductor, have a point of view about anything?
Number 16, The Outfit.
My father, Francis. It's my father who's in danger, not yours.
Number 15, Nope. Number 14, Triangle of
Are you
Sadness.
feeling a bit maybe seasick? Yes, so I think it would be better to eat something because the seasickness is worse on an empty stomach.
Number 13, The Woman
What did
King.
you think it was?
Heads.
No. Those are the heads.
Number 12, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
Are you recording?
Yeah,
Right now?
yeah.
Oh. Well, what should I be doing?
Well, don't do anything. Just do whatever you'd normally be doing, like if I weren't here.
And number 11, X.
Something's wrong.
What you talking about?
And now let's discuss my top 10 this year, starting with I haven't seen any of the director's work yet, so I didn't know what to expect before watching Decision to Leave. What I got in return was a great movie that was able to blend both mystery and romance so well. You know that the chemistry between the two leads is like, the personification of a red flag? But because it is, you're so intrigued as to what exactly is going to happen to them and what the payoff is going to be. There's also a behind the scenes of the movie going around Twitter, which I really appreciate because this has a lot of impossible shots, and maybe even too many impossible shots. But that's just me. Thankfully, by the third act, they used less of it, and might I add, the movie's resolution is probably one of my favorites this year. It's one of those endings that make you go, wait, what? And while we're on the topic of crime, mysteries, deaths, and whatnot, that brings us to number 9.
This is a smokeless garden. This is a smokeless garden. This is a smokeless garden. Please keep our water clean. Please keep our water clean.
When I watched Knives Out for the first time, I liked it, but I thought the killer was too obvious, so I was hoping I didn't feel the same way this time with Glass Onion. I got it right this time again, but the way they hit it was a bit less obvious compared to the first one. I had my doubts at first while I was impatiently waiting for the murder to happen, and it did take a while, but the moment it happened, everything just went by so quickly, and the moment you realize it, the movie's over. There's a smaller number of suspects this time, but somehow the case is even more complex and difficult, and the more you try to find out, the more you just uncover. Just like a glass onion. I don't really know what else to say that doesn't spoil the whole thing away, but this is something absolutely worth the watch. They ate that.
You at the store or something? No, I'm not at the store, but I'm gonna escort you out of it.
Fucking see what happens.
See what happens?
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? Something bad's gonna happen?
Yeah. Outside.
If you've watched Call Me By Your Name, you might have an idea of what to expect in the director's latest movie, Bones and All. But at the same time, I don't think you will. This movie has a similar style of storytelling, but with a completely different story to tell. It follows Marin, who meets Lee while on her way across America to find a mother that she never met. The twist? They're both cannibals. This movie is romantic as it is absolutely disgusting. But if you're actually wondering/concerned, the only gory parts are the beginning, a scene in the middle, and the ending. Which now that I'm saying it, it sounds like the whole movie, but it's really just about 20 to 30%. But let's talk about the most insane part of the movie, which is how it was able to seamlessly fuse both romance and body horror. After watching the movie, my first thought was, how is this possible? And why did it work? It just felt as if something like that is completely natural or normal to happen, which is absolutely not, by the way. Bones and All is at its best when it's switching up on you, and is definitely one of the biggest surprises for me this year, just like this next one. RRR Triple R? Well, regardless how you pronounce the title, it's still without a doubt one of the biggest standouts of this year. I heard about this on Twitter when I saw a clip of one of the two main characters being introduced, and well, the rest was history. This movie is about two revolutionaries and their journey to fight against the British Empire. And from that alone, you probably already have an idea of what over-the-top things you should expect. Whatever you're thinking, think more, expect more. But not too much that you might disappoint yourself. This movie is unapologetically energetic and sometimes unrealistic, but that's where the fun part lies. It has action-packed scenes, musical numbers, and a great conclusion. And now that you've heard of RRR, let's move on to BBB.
You know what? Your parents are upper middle class. No, they're not.
I've watched a good number of Gen Z movies this year, and by many, I mean like, what, 2? But based on what I saw, the best movie focused on Gen Z out there right now is Bodies Cubed is about a group of Gen Z friends who played a secret killer game only to find out that someone actually died. On paper, it doesn't sound anything new or anything fresh, but what makes this movie unique is the characters themselves. Being from that generation, of course I love the movie and how it serves as a satire, but it's not necessarily in a way that it doesn't completely focus on poking fun at us. Just occasionally. With that said, I do understand how generational gaps might be one of the causes of this movie having a somewhat polarizing reception, but I liked it, and it was in my top 5 for a very long time even. The characters really carried the entirety of this movie because although some of them are intolerable or some of their arguments may or may not have sounded more and more stupid as the movie progressed, that was really the point of it all. Anyways, I could keep talking about this for a longer time, but let's end it here, which is what someone in this next film said to another.
Colin? Are you coming out to the pub, Colin? It's 2 o'clock, like.
Comedy nowadays tend to have something else that is mixed with it other than romance, like Jojo Rabbit, Lady Bird, A Simple Favor, and these types of comedies tend to be a hit or miss for me. The movie tells the story of one man who suddenly cuts ties with his best friend. That's it. That's the entire plot. You would think that this is the type that only lasts as long as a short film, but it actually does a lot of things for a plot so simple, some of them even being something never before seen. Sure, the movie is somewhat a personification of a certain historic event, but you never think of it that way, even if the movie itself tries to tell you so. And like I said earlier, the movie has its funny parts, but it also gets very dark as it progresses. Especially by the end where it just goes darker and darker one scene after the other to the point that I got shocked, I got hurt, but I was amazed. This movie has one of my favorite casts this year, and lastly, there's a cute dog and a donkey. What else do you need me to say? The movie passed with flying colors.
I give you Captain Pete Mitchell. Call sign, Maverick.
Good morning.
A few months before the release of this movie, I didn't really care about Top Gun Maverick. But after hearing so many people love this movie, including some of my friends, I decided to join the bandwagon. When I watched the first Top Gun movie, I liked it, but I didn't really love it, and somehow I even fell asleep at the loudest part of the movie. The sequel, however, did not disappoint at all. I'm not exactly sure what made me like it a lot, but it was probably the fact that I was just fully immersed throughout. I was just at the edge of my seat the whole time, completely speechless, jaw drop, popcorn. Already finished it midway, and I enjoyed every second of that movie. I don't know if I would give this movie this high of a ranking if I didn't watch it in theaters, but I guess we'll never know. It's all in the past, and all we can do now is look back at it. I'm just gonna go straight to the point. Aftersun broke me. I was broken, I was hurt by something that happened to someone else, I felt weak after watching, I just stared at the screen for a good 10 minutes or so, and I loved it. Slow burn movies are one of my weaknesses when it comes to movies, with the likes of I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Nightmare Alley, and Phantom Thread, which I now love. Aftersun follows the memories of a father and his daughter while spending a vacation in Turkey. They don't really tell you what happens. Well, they just don't tell you at all. You just follow them through their vacation and learn about them more and their relationship. But the more you get to know them, you start seeing both sides of the story. What one person knows that the other doesn't, and how one feels about something without telling it. And the moment you reach the end, you're vulnerable enough for the movie to break you, making you feel for these two once the conclusion hits. And that is a slow burn. I did have my doubts while watching this movie, but what I do know is that the movie really touches on parts that really go deep, even though it doesn't seem as deep as you may think. I don't know, there's just something about family movies, like they always get me. It's such an interesting topic to talk about because it's something you could do anything with when it comes to movies.
Sammy, how far are you gonna let him walk?
Months before the release of this movie, The Fabelmans was already named as the frontrunner for Best Picture at the upcoming Oscars next year. In the next few months. And honestly, I see why. I understand why. And I am not complaining. It follows the semi-fictional life of its director, Steven Spielberg, from the moment he watched his first ever movie to his beginnings as a director. So what's so special about it? Others have said that there's nothing special about it actually, that it's just your typical family and school drama, which I do understand because it does feel like that in some ways. But for me, what makes it special is how it was executed. Because the movie feels like a dream, and it's a very dreamy, wow, go figure, only for it to be occasionally interrupted by certain issues that the main character encounters along the way. And these problems aren't anything new, you know. Family arguments, affairs, bullying, religious differences, ambitious differences, you name it. And I know other people tend to have a somewhat dislike for movies about movies because they're the ones that get the awards, and it's probably the case for this one as well. But The Fabelmans is so good because you can really feel the effort and the passion that Spielberg puts into this movie. And on top of it all, it ends with what is probably a simple yet very amusing ending that will surely put a smile on your face. It's everything, honestly, but not as much as my number one of the year, which, if you still don't know what it is, I don't even know what to say to you anymore. To describe this movie is to simply just read its title. Everything, everywhere, all at once. The movie follows Evelyn, who one day finds out that there is an entire multiverse that not only exists, but is in danger, and she is the only one that could save it all. Simply put, I have never seen anything like this before. This movie feels like one big fat 2-hour risk that somehow people decided thought was worth a shot making, and the crazy part is that it worked out in the end. There's a lot of bizarre things scattered throughout this movie, and just thinking about the amount of time they had to allot in the making of it seems overwhelming by itself. Besides the bizarreness of this movie, it's still able to counter those off with parts that sort of go deeper than expected, tackling issues about family, living in a different country, our greatest what ifs, and even deeper topics such as existentialism. Everything, everywhere, all at once. I don't know what else to say about this movie, so I'm just gonna need you to watch it. Please, after this video, watch it immediately after. I don't care how legal, illegal, whatever, just find a way, please, okay? And there you have it, my top 10 movies of the year, along with the next 10. This was a really fun year to experience in terms of movies, given that this is my first year actually focusing on them. Thank you so much for watching this video. It really means a lot to me, especially after returning to YouTube since last April. I may or may not make more videos about movies in particular, maybe a monthly update, I don't know, but we'll see.